The cabin buzzed with the kind of barely contained chaos that only a Saturday evening flight could bring. Overhead bins clicked shut, children weaved between rows, and passengers argued quietly about window seats and legroom. Fluorescent lights hummed above as the intercom announced final boarding. Somewhere near row 17, Dylan adjusted his tie, took a breath, and pushed the service cart down the narrow aisle. It was his second flight of the day, and the last before he could finally clock out, go home, and maybe catch that superhero movie his friends had been texting about all week. At 17, Dylan was one of the youngest flight attendants on the team, a summer trainee for Blue Phoenix Airlines. He was polite, reliable, and nearly invisible to most passengers. Just another kid in a navy blue vest and clip-on wings. He'd learned quickly to survive in the air, smile through the rude comments, keep calm in turbulence, literal and emotional, and always stay one step ahead of passengers who thought flight crew meant personal servant. He was midway through distributing bottled water and courtesy wipes in economy class when she appeared. Seat 19C. A platinum blonde bob with dark roots. Oversized sunglasses even though they'd already dimmed the lights for takeoff. And a designer purse that occupied more space than her seat allowed. Her expression was icy and sharp, like she was daring the universe to disappoint her. Dylan smiled, ready to offer her the standard water or juice. But she didn't wait. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp and loud enough for at least 3 rows to hear. "Do you have the artisanal glacier water?" Dylan blinked. "I'm sorry, ma'am. That brand is reserved for first-class passengers. I can offer you bottled spring water or apple juice if you'd like." She stared at him like he'd just told her the world was ending. "That's unacceptable. My body doesn't tolerate plastic toxins. I need the glacier water. I saw someone drinking it 2 rows ahead." Dylan followed her gaze. "Yes, those are first-class amenities. We're not allowed to." "You're not allowed?" she cut in, scoffing. "I paid for this flight just like everyone else, and you're telling me I can't properly hydrate because I'm in the wrong row? I understand, but those items are tracked and locked in a separate cart. It's policy." "Oh, how convenient," she sneered. "So I'm just supposed to accept tap water and chemicals while they sip melted snowflakes from the Alps?" Dylan opened his mouth to offer an extra bottle, maybe even a hot tea, but she was already leaning forward. With one calculated movement, she shoved the front of the service cart into his shin. The metal edge clipped his leg with just enough force to sting. Dylan flinched but stayed upright. "Ma'am, please don't touch the cart." "I asked for one thing," she hissed. "One simple thing, and instead I get lectured by a teenage flight waiter with a name tag and no spine." Her voice rose above the low cabin murmur. A few heads turned. One passenger tilted their phone slightly. "I'm doing my best," Dylan said calmly, though his heart was pounding now. "But I can't give you something that's not in my section." "Don't give me excuses," she snapped. "Give me water. Real water. Not whatever sludge you people push on the peasants in the back. I can get my supervisor if—" "No," she barked. "You get the water. I know you people hide extra stock for your friends." The phrase, "you people," echoed like a slap. Dylan took a step back. "Ma'am, we don't hide anything. Everything is accounted for." "You think I'm stupid?" Her eyes blazed. "I've flown before. I know how this works. You're just too lazy to go get it." She stepped forward, then, slam. This time, she rammed the cart into his leg with both hands. It hit harder. Dylan stumbled and fell to one knee, the edge of the cart biting into his thigh. "Stop!" someone yelled from the next row. A phone camera clicked into full record mode. Sylvia Carver, though Dylan didn't know her name yet, reversed the cart, and she prepared to do it again. "Ma'am, stop, please!" Dylan's voice cracked as he shielded himself, one knee still pressed against the hard airplane floor. But Sylvia Carver wasn't listening. Her hand gripped the cart handle like a battering ram, and in one swift, unhinged motion, she shoved it forward again. Clang! The cart struck Dylan's shin a second time, this time harder. The sharp edge scraped skin, and he let out an involuntary yelp, part pain, part disbelief. A gasp rippled through the cabin. A toddler burst into tears. A teenage girl seated by the aisle leaned forward and whispered to her friend, "Are you recording?" Her friend nodded, phone already angled for a clean shot of the unfolding chaos. Behind them, a man stood halfway out of his seat. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" he shouted, trying to maneuver past the narrow row to get to Dylan. Sylvia spun around, eyes wide and wild, her perfectly painted lips curled in outrage. "Mind your own business," she barked. "This boy is refusing to do his job. I paid for a service, and I'm being denied basic human rights. I'll have every one of you arrested for harassment." "You assaulted him," the man retorted. Another woman chimed in, firm, composed, but resolute. "Someone call the flight supervisor. Now." But Sylvia wasn't done. She pulled the cart back a third time, only this time, before she could lunge again, a hand stopped her. It was Maya, the lead flight attendant. Tall, steady, no nonsense. She'd been managing service up front when the commotion drew her attention like a magnet. "Step back from the cart, ma'am," Maya said, her voice low but edged with steel. Sylvia's nostrils flared. Finally, someone with some authority. Arrest him. He's being insubordinate, refusing medical accommodations, and now he's physically threatening me. Maya blinked. "You assaulted a minor flight attendant in front of multiple passengers. You're not the victim here." "I am the victim," Sylvia shrieked. "I'm a wellness blogger. I'm sensitive to chemicals. This airline is discriminating against me." He looked at me like I was crazy. "No, ma'am," Maya said coolly, stepping between her and Dylan. He looked scared. Sylvia took a breath to scream again, but it was drowned out by the unmistakable voice of the pilot over the intercom. "This is your captain speaking. We've been alerted to a disturbance in economy class. We are currently holding takeoff at the gate. Security has been called." Sylvia's face froze. For a moment, the entire plane was quiet, except for the hum of the engines and the beeping of a phone recording. Dylan, still kneeling, tried to stand. His thigh throbbed where the cart had hit. He leaned against the seat for balance, wincing as Maya placed a steadying hand on his arm. "I'm fine," he muttered, though the color in his face told another story. Maya didn't press. She turned to another flight attendant. "Get the med kit and call airport security again. Tell them we have a physical assault involving a minor." At that word, minor, Sylvia finally blinked. Her eyes flicked to Dylan's young face, then to the growing wall of passengers filming her every movement. "He attacked me," she insisted one last time, voice faltering. But it was too late. 2 minutes later, the boarding door hissed open again, and 2 uniformed airport officers stepped into the cabin. One of them held a body cam. The other addressed Sylvia with practiced calm. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." "On what grounds?" she shouted. "I'm a paying customer. I demand to speak to someone higher up. You'll be hearing from my attorney." "You can speak to us at the terminal," the officer said. "I'm not going anywhere. I have rights." When she resisted, they each took an arm, not roughly, but firmly. As they guided her down the aisle, her voice climbed to an unhinged pitch. "I will sue this airline. I will expose all of you. This is a conspiracy. Wake up." Every word echoed down the fuselage like nails on a chalkboard. Dylan closed his eyes. His leg ached, his head spun, and somewhere in the back of his mind he wondered, how did we get here? One moment, it had been a request for bottled water. The next, a full-blown assault, captured on half a dozen phones, shared with the world in real time. He looked up and saw the teenager holding the phone from earlier. She mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" He nodded weakly. As Sylvia was dragged down the jet bridge, a woman whispered to her husband, "She just ruined her whole life for fancy water." The flight was delayed. Of course it was. Dylan was escorted to the front of the plane, where a portable first aid kit and a medic from the gate team were waiting. Maya stayed close, never leaving his side. "I'm so sorry," she said gently, kneeling next to him as the medic examined his leg. "You handled that better than most adults would." Dylan offered a faint smile. "I was just trying to do my job," Maya nodded. "And you did it. You did it right." But even as the pain was bandaged and the apologies flowed in, Dylan felt something deeper setting in, something colder than bruises or shock. This wasn't over. The video was already online. He knew it. He had seen that gleam in the eyes of the passengers filming, the look that said this is going viral. And he wasn't wrong. By the time Dylan's foot touched the tarmac, the video had already been uploaded to 3 different platforms. A shaky, 42-second clip titled "Karen Attacks Teen Flight Attendant Over Sparkling Water" was racking up views at an alarming pace. The thumbnail, A frozen frame of Sylvia Carver screaming, Dylan crouched in pain, had become the newest fuel in the internet's endless wildfire of outrage. But Dylan didn't know that yet. He sat on a fold-out medical chair just outside Gate B12, a paramedic, wrapping an elastic bandage around his bruised leg. Maya stood nearby, arms crossed, jaw tight. "It's a soft tissue injury," the paramedic said. "You're lucky, no fracture, but he needs rest, ice, elevation." "I'm fine," Dylan muttered for the third time. But he wasn't. His hands trembled every few minutes, not from pain but from something deeper. From that raw, hollow place that trauma carves out before you even realize what's happened. The footage kept flashing in his mind, the cart hitting his leg, the silence between impact and reaction. Her voice shrill and dehumanizing. "You're just a teenage flight waiter with no spine." That one stuck. "Your mom's on her way," Maya said gently. "The gate staff called her. She should be here soon." Dylan nodded, swallowing hard. He didn't want to cry. Not in public. Not with passengers still staring, whispering from behind waiting area chairs like he was some live exhibit. A few of them approached. One woman offered him a bottle of water, regular spring water, ironically. A man said, "I'm so sorry that happened to you." Someone else handed Maya their phone number, saying, "If you need a witness, I recorded everything." That's when it hit him. Everything had been recorded. He could already imagine the comment sections. Entitled "Karen loses it on flight." Teen employee keeps his cool under pressure. She's probably anti-vax too. This generation is so soft. Good and bad, support and mockery, sympathy and conspiracy. He suddenly felt exposed, like his skin had been peeled back and put on display. And the worst part? He hadn't done anything but try to do his job. The airport doors whooshed open, and a wave of warm afternoon air swept in, along with a familiar voice. Dylan, his mother. Lorraine Lewis rushed through the gate, still in her hospital scrubs, shoes squeaking across the tile floor. Her face was panic and fury and maternal instinct all rolled into one. She dropped to her knees in front of him and cupped his face like he was 5 years old again. "Oh my God, baby, are you okay?" Dylan tried to smile, but it cracked halfway. "I'm okay," he whispered. "I saw the video," she said. "Someone posted it and tagged me. I came as fast as I could." Of course they did. Of course someone had found her. Maya stepped forward. "Your son was calm, professional. He did everything right." Lorraine turned to her, eyes glassy with emotion. "He always does that, and look what it got him." Dylan flinched at that, not because she was wrong, but because he knew she was right. They helped him up. His leg throbbed, but he could walk. As they made their way toward the exit, Dylan saw people watching him. Some with pity, some with admiration, some with phones still held low and sneaky. A few whispered his name. Others just stared. And then, just outside the terminal doors, a news van. "Oh no," Dylan muttered, but it was too late. A reporter in heels and perfectly brushed curls broke away from her cameraman. "Dylan Lewis?" she called. "Can we get a quick statement, just to clarify what happened on the flight?" Lorraine stepped forward, shielding her son. "He's a minor, and he's hurt." No comment. But Dylan hesitated. He was tired. He was hurting. He felt like collapsing right there on the pavement. But something in him also knew that the story was being written whether he spoke or not. That his silence would be filled in by strangers if he didn't claim it himself. So he turned, just for a second, and said, "I just hope people start treating service workers better. We're not robots. We're not punching bags." The reporter blinked, stunned by the quiet weight of it. And just like that, the quote was live. Tweeted, clipped, shared, memed. That night, Dylan lay in bed, leg elevated with an ice pack, phone buzzing every few seconds. Texts from classmates, coworkers, even people he hadn't spoken to since middle school. Some were supportive, some sent links to the video. One read, "Dude, you're famous. You're on CNN." He didn't answer any of them. He just stared at the screen as the views climbed, thousands, then hundreds of thousands. By midnight, it had passed 1 million. And as Dylan stared at the glow of his screen, leg pulsing, pride aching, and dignity hanging by a thread, he realized something. Sylvia Carver wouldn't be able to hide. Not from this, not anymore. By morning, the video had reached 3.2 million views. The title varied depending on who uploaded it. Karen assaults teen over sparkling water. Flight attendant in training attacked by anti-water woman. This entitled passenger just ruined her life. But the result was the same. Everyone was watching. Hashtags exploded across social media. Cart Karen, justice for Dylan, glacier water meltdown, flight 446 incident. Dylan sat curled on the couch, one leg propped up, the TV on mute. His phone vibrated nonstop. Every few minutes, someone tagged him in a post or sent him a DM filled with supportive emojis and "I'm so sorry" messages from strangers. But buried beneath them were the darker ones. This is fake. He's faking the limp. Just another woke brat playing the victim. The internet had opened its arms and its claws. He hadn't even wanted any of it. Lorraine walked in from the kitchen with a mug of tea. "Drink," she said, handing it to him. "You haven't touched anything since last night." "I'm not hungry," he mumbled. She sat beside him, placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "I know this is a lot. I didn't even do anything, Mom. I just did my job." "I know. And now my name's trending next to a woman screaming about water." "She brought that on herself," Lorraine said, sharp. "Not you." But Dylan couldn't shake the sense of vulnerability, like his whole life had been peeled open and pinned under a microscope. And that's when the next phase began. It took less than 48 hours to identify her. Internet sleuths had done what they always did, cross-referenced video footage with the flight number, airport, gate number, and a glimpse of her boarding pass someone had caught mid-rant. Her name? Sylvia Carver. Age 48. Occupation: holistic wellness coach. Location: Sedona, Arizona. A quick scroll through her public social media revealed everything. Videos ranting about toxic air on planes, posts promoting detox crystals and vibration-enhancing teas, anti-vaccine hashtags, and one particularly damning clip where she berated a flight attendant for offering her fluoride-filled poison water. Within hours, every brand she'd ever endorsed began pulling away. Sponsors dropped her. Her YouTube channel vanished. Her website was taken offline due to violation of hosting terms. Yet even in freefall, Sylvia didn't back down. That evening, she posted a tearful selfie video from what appeared to be a dingy motel room. The camera wobbled. The lighting was awful. Her mascara ran like ink. "I know the truth's hard to hear," she sniffled. "But I was the one assaulted. That boy mocked me. He rolled his eyes, disrespected my health condition. The cart didn't even touch him. That video was manipulated by woke kids and big soda. This is a smear campaign. I'm being silenced." It was exactly what the internet had expected, and it went down like a match in a gasoline storm. The memes came instantly. Sylvia as a cartoon boss in a video game. Cart Karen starter pack. An edited clip where every scream was replaced by dolphin noises. Dylan watched it all from behind his screen, stunned. "What is wrong with people?" he muttered. Lorraine looked up from her laptop. "They want something to laugh at, someone to punish, someone to feel better than." "She said I faked everything," Dylan whispered. "She really believes that?" "No," Lorraine said. "She just wants someone else to believe it first." 3 days later, Blue Phoenix Airlines issued a public statement. "We stand by our flight crew. Violence or harassment of any kind will never be tolerated. Miss Sylvia Carver is banned from all future Blue Phoenix flights, effective immediately." Then came the call from HR. They were offering Dylan paid leave, full medical coverage, and ongoing trauma counseling if needed. They also asked if he'd be willing to do a brief interview for internal training. He declined. He didn't want to be a face for corporate reform. He just wanted to be forgotten. But the world wasn't done with him yet. That Friday, Dylan received an email from a local news station. "We'd like to invite you for an in-person interview. No drama, no spin, just your story, your voice." He deleted the message, then reread it, then undeleted it. That night, he lay in bed with the glow of his phone screen casting long shadows on the ceiling. His leg throbbed dully under the bandage. He remembered what Maya had said after the paramedics cleared him. "You did everything right." And maybe it was time someone heard that out loud. The park was quiet. A rare kind of quiet that felt intentional, like the world had decided, just for a moment, to let someone speak without interruption. Dylan sat on a wooden bench beneath a sycamore tree, dressed simply in jeans and a dark blue button-up. A soft breeze tugged at his sleeves, and in the distance, the city's hum blurred into something almost peaceful. Across from him sat Camille Foster, a reporter known more for her calm questions than flashy headlines. There were no bright studio lights, no crowds, no live audience. Just 2 chairs, 1 camera, and a quiet moment that felt heavier than any courtroom. The interview had been Dylan's idea in the end, or rather, his choice. He didn't want to become a meme. He didn't want merch with his name on it or brand deals with bottled water companies. He just wanted the truth told on his terms. Camille clicked her recorder on. Dylan, first of all, thank you for being here. I know this hasn't been easy. Dylan nodded, his fingers laced in his lap. Yeah, it's been a lot. She gave him space to settle before asking, can you tell me what you remember about that moment on the flight? He exhaled slowly. I remember thinking it was just going to be another shift, that maybe I'd be home in time for dinner, that it'd be boring maybe. I didn't think it would go viral. What happened, in your words? He paused, looked down at his bandaged leg, then back up. She wanted something we didn't have, he said simply. A kind of water that was reserved for first class. I tried to explain. I stayed calm. And then she hit me with the cart. Twice. Did you feel scared? Yes, he said, eyes steady now. Because it didn't feel like a misunderstanding. It felt personal. Like she didn't see me as a person at all. Just someone she could hurt because she didn't get her way. Camille didn't interrupt. She didn't just yell, she pushed. She weaponized something meant for service. That's what stayed with me, the look in her eyes when she did it. There was no hesitation. Silence hung between them for a beat too long. Then Camille asked, why speak now? Dylan looked straight into the camera. His voice didn't waver. Because service workers get treated like we're disposable. Because no one sees how hard it is to stay calm when someone's yelling in your face. Because I was taught to be respectful. But no one teaches people how to respect us. That clip hit the internet like a second wave. But this time it didn't spark memes, it sparked conversation. Educators shared the video in high schools across the country. Labor rights groups applauded his composure. Teen workers messaged him privately, saying they'd had their own Karens, just without witnesses or justice. A post on Reddit, titled "He Said What We've All Felt," climbed to the front page. Suddenly the narrative changed. Dylan wasn't just a victim, he was a voice. Meanwhile, Sylvia Carver's spiral continued. Her motel video had flopped. Her Instagram account was flooded with snake emojis. One of her old sponsors posted, "We do not and have never condoned violence of any kind." But still, she refused to back down. 2 days after Dylan's interview aired, Sylvia's new attorney released a public statement claiming she was suffering from emotional trauma triggered by altitude stress and dietary sensitivity. People weren't buying it, especially when old clips resurfaced showing Sylvia berating a grocery store cashier, a barista, even a yoga instructor. This wasn't an isolated event, it was a pattern. The court date was set. Back in his living room, Dylan scrolled through messages as Lorraine folded laundry nearby. "You've been quiet," she said. "I just read one," Dylan murmured. "From a kid in Atlanta. Said his manager showed my interview to the staff and told customers to be more respectful." "That's beautiful," Lorraine said softly. "Yeah, but it feels weird." "Weird how?" "Like, I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't want to be a symbol." She paused, sat next to him. "You don't have to be a symbol. You were just honest, and people needed honesty." He nodded. And for the first time since it happened, he didn't feel small. He didn't feel like just the kid who got hit with a cart. He felt heard. That night, before bed, he turned off his notifications and pulled a letter from the back of his drawer. No return address, just one line, typed on plain paper. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I am sorry." No signature, no explanation. But Dylan knew who it was from. He stared at it for a long time, the quiet hum of his room wrapping around him like a blanket. Then he folded it neatly, slid it back into the drawer and whispered, "It's not forgiveness I needed, just accountability." The courthouse didn't look like a place where lives changed. Its beige walls and creaky metal benches seemed built for boredom, not justice. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly, and the waiting room buzzed with the low murmur of reporters, clerks, and too many coffee cups. But on that morning, everything felt different. Because this was the day Sylvia Carver would finally stand trial. Outside, protesters and spectators gathered with signs. Justice for Dylan, Cart Karen for Congress, ironically, respect youth workers. A few teenagers wore mock aprons and taped training name tags to their shirts in solidarity. One even held a sign that read, "He just said no to water, not war." Inside, Dylan sat next to his mother, Lorraine, on a wooden bench, wearing his only dress shirt and a pair of stiff black pants that tugged at the brace beneath. The court clerk called for silence, and the room shifted into a collective hush. The door creaked open and Sylvia entered. But she was no longer the platinum blonde tornado from Flight 46. Her hair was unstyled, pulled back tightly. She wore a wrinkled beige pantsuit, nothing like the influencer wardrobe her followers once praised. Her posture was hunched, eyes downcast, lips tight, no sunglasses, no designer bag, just a tremble in her fingertips. She looked small. She took her seat beside her attorney, who leaned in, whispering urgently. She didn't respond. She just stared at the judge's bench as though trying to will herself into disappearing. The judge entered, a silver-haired man with sharp cheekbones and the kind of voice that didn't need volume to demand silence. This court is now in session. The trial moved faster than expected. The prosecution presented video footage, the moment the cart slammed into Dylan's leg, the audible yelp, the stunned gasps, 3 separate angles, crystal clear. Several witnesses took the stand. A woman from row 20 who'd tried to intervene, a man from first class who'd caught the aftermath on camera, Maya, the senior flight attendant who testified to Dylan's professionalism and Sylvia's refusal to stop. Then, it was Dylan's turn. He stood slowly, heart pounding like a second pulse in his ears. His leg ached under the fabric of his trousers, but it was the weight in his chest that made it hard to breathe. He took the stand, swore the oath, sat, and then he spoke. "I was just doing my job," he began. "She asked for a type of water we didn't have in that section," I explained. "I offered other options. I stayed polite. She got angry, said I was hiding things, said I was lazy. Then she pushed the cart into me. Once, twice, almost a third time, but someone stopped her. I remember the pain, but more than that, I remember feeling invisible, like I was just an object, like my voice didn't matter." The courtroom was silent. The judge listened, face unreadable. The jury didn't blink. Sylvia sat still, eyes lowered, lips pressed thin. I didn't yell at her, I didn't insult her, I just said the truth, and for that I was punished. He looked directly at Sylvia for the first time. "You looked at me like I was beneath you, like hurting me was your right." Sylvia's hands clenched. The prosecution rested. Her attorney stood, voice measured but nervous. "She suffers from anxiety, from dietary restrictions. She experienced an emotional episode brought on by high altitudes and unfamiliar environments. We asked the court to consider these mitigating factors." But no one was convinced, especially not after the court played her own video, the motel recording where she denied everything, blamed Dylan, called him names, claimed the video was edited by Big Soda. It didn't help that they found 5 prior complaints, from airports, restaurants, even a yoga retreat, of aggressive public outbursts recorded on file. This wasn't a one-time lapse, it was a pattern. Closing statements ended just before sunset. The courthouse bathed in golden light. Dylan sat beside Lorraine, his back sore from the posture of tension. His mother never let go of his hand. The jury was out for less than 2 hours. They returned with a verdict, guilty, on all counts. Assault, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, endangering a minor. Sylvia didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply sank into her seat, hands folded in her lap, as if she too had known all along. As they exited the courthouse, reporters crowded again. Microphones, flashbulbs, shouts of "Dylan! Over here!" He didn't flinch this time. He answered one question, just one. "What do you want people to learn from this?" He paused, looked past the cameras, then said simply, "It costs nothing to be kind, but sometimes being cruel costs everything." And then he walked away. The courtroom wasn't full this time. The cameras had moved on. The live bloggers, the hashtags, the protesters with ironic signs, they were outside, still waiting, but the air inside was heavier now. Thicker. Like everyone knew that what was about to happen would matter more than any headline ever could. Dylan sat in the front row, beside his mother, his hands still, his eyes steady. He wasn't scared anymore, just tired. So very tired. Sylvia Carver sat at the defense table, wringing her hands, eyes rimmed red but dry. Her pantsuit was the same beige as before, but her hair now looked unbrushed, as if even vanity had given up. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked down at her over the rim. "Miss Carver, you've been found guilty on all counts. Before I deliver your sentence, the court will now hear your final statement." A hush fell like a blanket. Sylvia stood. Her voice was hoarse, thin, like a thread being pulled too tight. "I've made mistakes," she said. "I wasn't in a good place mentally. I was under stress. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Her eyes flicked toward Dylan for half a second, just enough to suggest acknowledgement, but not enough to offer truth. "I let my frustration get the better of me. I wish I could take it back." She sat, and that was it. No apology, no specifics, no ownership of what she did. Just deflection, dressed in vague regret. Dylan's jaw tensed. Lorraine placed her hand gently over his. The judge leaned forward. His voice did not rise. It didn't need to. "Miss Carver," he began, "you didn't just lash out. You didn't just lose your temper. You used your power, your age, your social status, against a teenage worker simply doing his job. This was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of entitlement left unchecked. And when confronted, you lied, gaslighted the public, and attempted to portray yourself as the victim." He paused, then said with finality, "You are hereby sentenced to 4 years in a state correctional facility. You will be eligible for parole after 2, contingent on participation in anger management and behavioral reform programs. Additionally, you are ordered to perform 380 hours of community service, specifically assigned to roadside cleanup along the highway that leads to the airport where this assault took place. You are banned from entering any retail or airline location affiliated with Blue Phoenix for the duration of your parole. Your actions have consequences, Miss Carver, and today you begin to face them." He banged the gavel. The courtroom exhaled as one. A bailiff approached Sylvia and gently turned her wrists. The metallic click of the cuffs echoed through the room like punctuation. Dylan didn't feel triumph, not joy, just release. Outside, the sun was bright, but the crowd had thinned. A few reporters still lingered. One tried to approach, but Lorraine shielded her son with a simple look that said, "No more." They walked in silence toward the parking garage. Not rushed, not tense. When they reached the car, Dylan paused before opening the door. He looked up at the sky. The same sky that had once loomed over him in fear now felt open. He let out a long, quiet breath, his first breath in weeks that wasn't laced with anxiety. Lorraine squeezed his shoulder. "It's over," she said softly. Dylan nodded. "Yeah, it is." The next few days passed without viral videos, without phone calls, without hashtags, and it was beautiful. He stopped checking the news, turned off his alerts. Let his leg heal in silence, let his mind settle in the stillness that finally returned. One evening, he walked to the bookstore near the edge of town. The manager, an older man with gentle eyes, offered him a part-time job sorting inventory. He accepted. No uniforms, no name tags, no carts, just shelves and pages and peace. But one thing still lingered. A quiet knock came one afternoon. A woman stood at the counter, young, nervous, with the same shaped eyes as someone he thought he'd never see again. "Are you Dylan?" she asked. He nodded. "I'm Sylvia's daughter." Silence. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. What she did was inexcusable. But I thought you should know, not everyone in her family thinks like she does." Dylan didn't know what to say, so he just nodded gently. "She's in prison," the girl continued, "and she's trying. Writing letters. I don't know if she means them, but they're less angry now, less paranoid." She turned to leave but paused at the door. "Thank you for not becoming like her." She left, and Dylan, still holding a stack of books in one hand, felt something unexpected. Closure. Not because she apologized, not because anything was fixed, but because the circle had closed itself. Quietly, honestly. And that, somehow, was enough. Summer came slowly that year. Like it was nervous to arrive after everything that had happened. After the shouting, the storm, the spotlight. As if even the season knew the world needed rest. And for once, Dylan welcomed the slowness. The media frenzy died down, the memes faded, the reporters stopped calling. Even his classmates, who once couldn't go a lunch period without whispering his name, had moved on to the next viral scandal. Dylan wasn't a headline anymore. He was just Dylan again. His days fell into a new rhythm. He worked part-time at the bookstore on the edge of town, a small place with creaky floors, soft jazz on the speakers, and a bell that chimed every time someone walked in. It was quiet, predictable, kind. Customers asked questions like, "Do you have the new sci-fi book with the purple cover? Or can you recommend something for heartbreak?" No one asked about carts, or courts, or cruelty. Here, Dylan wasn't a symbol or a victim. or a cause. He was just a kid who loved books. His leg healed, so did the bruises no one could see. He laughed more now, smiled without thinking about it. Sometimes trauma doesn't scream when it leaves. It just stops echoing, and that silence is its own kind of freedom. At home, Lorraine no longer hovered at every doorway. She still asked how he was, still worried, like all good mothers do. But it wasn't the sharp, frantic fear anymore. It was softer now, like a blanket instead of a siren. They cooked together in the evenings, watched bad movies, argued about pizza toppings, laughed over nothing, filled the house with the kind of love that doesn't go viral, but mattered so much more. One afternoon, the district youth advocacy office sent Dylan a letter. They were hosting a panel on teen worker safety. They wanted him to be a guest, a symbol, a voice. He sat with the envelope on his lap for nearly an hour. Outside, the wind rustled the leaves. A dog barked somewhere down the street. The world spun gently on. He thought about standing in front of a room, telling his story again. Telling them what it felt like to be hurt, to be filmed, to be everywhere when all you wanted was to go home. Then he thought about the bookstore. The old woman who came in every Tuesday for new crossword puzzle books. The boy who'd finally started reading again because Dylan recommended Ender's Game. The stillness, and he folded the letter, not to throw it away, just to set it aside. Not ready, not needing to be. Some stories don't need speeches. Some victories come quietly. And then one morning, Dylan arrived early to open the store. The air smelled like rain. He unlocked the door, turned the lights on, and stood for a moment, letting the peace settle around him. No buzz, no headlines, just soft light. Wood, paper, ink. He smiled and walked behind the counter, sliding his hands over the well-worn wood, the same way he might greet an old friend. And for the first time in a long time, he said to himself, not out loud, but in the way that matters most, I'm okay. Not because everything was perfect, not because justice had erased pain, but because he had lived through it. And now, he could breathe. There was no cliffhanger, no dramatic final twist, no viral moment, just peace, just stillness, just a boy with a book, and the strength to move forward without carrying the weight anymore. If you believe kindness still matters, if you believe that one voice can expose injustice, and that quiet courage deserves to be heard. Subscribe to Aiva Stories. We tell more than just stories. We uncover truths. We give voice to the people the world tries to silence. Not for views, not for shock, but for impact, for healing, for change. Hit the bell so you never miss a story that might just shift something inside you. Because some stories stay with you.